When I started at Victory, we were at 2nd and Sheridan, and actually we were Sheridan Christian School at the time, but we were still Conquerors. And then from there, we moved to 4400 South Sheridan, which had been the Tink's old auto mart. In fact, we practiced in one of the bays. It was crazy.
My name is Laurie Cruz, and I graduated from Victory in 1983. She was my coach my junior year. I think the hardest lesson I learned was just the perseverance that it takes. We were cheering in the early days at Victory. We didn't have a gym. We didn't have any place to practice. We practiced in the breezeway, we called it. It was basically a garage. We had just moved to 4400 South Sheridan, and so, cement floor, but Julia was gonna do all the things, even though we didn't have all the facilities that maybe other places had. So that perseverance was a great lesson.
I had Miss Fisher for 1 year, my freshman year, 1997-1998 school year. And let me tell you, being a varsity cheerleader at Victory was one of the highlights of my years at Victory. Miss Fisher was an amazing coach.
And then coming in under Julie Fisher as a cheerleader was a whole nother caliber. She pushed our bodies to the maximum. And when you thought you couldn't push anymore on a run or a push-up or a stunt, whatever she was requiring that day, she was gonna push you to your limit and past it. But it made us better, made us more efficient, stronger.
My name is Katie Schmeltz. It was Katie Gooder when I was a student, and I graduated in 2004. I cheered for Miss Fish for 4 years. I remember showing up to my first practice, and when you join a squad with Miss Fish, her reputation precedes her. And so I knew what I was getting into, or so I thought. And she showed up, and she always had this ginormous bag that she pulled that had wheels. And you knew she meant business when she showed up with her bag and her binder. And my funniest memory was just sitting there thinking, oh no, what have I got myself into? Because I had heard that it was going to be intense, but that it was going to be worth it.
She definitely saw the potential in us, and she was a good mirror to pull yourself up to that standard. I feel like she definitely did that for me.
Julie specifically, I feel like helped us grow not only physically, but spiritually and emotionally as well. And I found that to be a really amazing experience for me.
I would say the most impactful thing now as an adult is that she always led us to Jesus. There was nothing. She never used an experience without pointing us to Jesus in the midst of that.
She had such a steadfast love for the Lord that really influenced my journey with Jesus.
My whole life is centered around the Lord and the Word. It's the most important thing to me. I start and end my day with it.
Ms. Fish, my mom, was my cheerleading coach my freshman and sophomore years of high school. I have so many fun memories, kind of hard to list them all. The football games, basketball games, cheering at OUEF. Some of my funniest memories in high school have to do with cheerleading, like going to toilet paper people's houses. That was pretty fun.
My parents were both big readers. They were studiers of the Word, and everything they did in their parenting and in their marriage was based on what the Bible has to say. And so, all of the things that she would instill in us in cheerleading, she did that much more at home.
Hi, I am Lindsay Wire, used to be Lindsay Fisher, and Coach Fish was my cheerleading coach my sophomore, junior, and senior year of high school, and also is my mom. I absolutely loved having my mom as my coach, for her to be up at school and just to be aware of what was going on, and for my friends to get to know that side of her. She was so intentional as a coach.
Never, ever met a person that exudes excellence like Julie Fisher does. Every part of her life is intentional. She has shown us what a life of intention looks like.
Anyone who knows my mom will tell you that my mom is probably the most intentional person you will ever meet.
Being intentional, it's funny because people ask me about being intentional because I guess apparently that's a very well-known characteristic. Being intentional, okay, partly it's my personality because I like things to be done well. In fact, our scripture was always in Ecclesiastes, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. If I'm not intentional, I realize I'm not loving enough. Compassion has kind of slipped back a little bit because I've let what I need to do and get done kind of take over because I'm a doer. I like to check things off my list. But if I'm not intentional, then compassion and caring might kind of slip away. So that's one of the reasons why I'm very, very intentional.
Some people would say my mom was a perfectionist, but she's not a perfectionist. She didn't require you to be perfect, because no one can be perfect. But she always required us to do things with excellence and to do things to the best of my ability. So whatever it is in life that I'm doing, whether it's how I parent my kids or the type of friend I am or the type of wife I am or my relationship with the Lord, all of those things my parents and my mom instilled in us, do them to the best of your ability and do them with excellence. And she didn't really accept less than. With her cheerleaders, we were required to do things with excellence, and because of that, we were really good, and it was really fun.
It was so much more than just, obviously the cheerleading. It was about relationship building. And she poured into us and then allowed us to have the time to, fellowship with each other, which made us stronger on the court, or on the field when we were cheering.
My husband and I it was always important to us to reach out to teenagers. I think God gave both of us a real heart for teenagers. I was brought up that way. So for me, to have your house be an open home and just the command and the word for hospitality, to me is, it's important. It's important to have that be your way of life. So we loved opening our home to people. In fact, there were different times when we had different cheerleaders who stayed with us for periods of time.
To this day is incredibly instrumental in my life. I'm thankful that I can still call on Mrs. Fisher. She's still a big part of my life. She's still praying for me. She's still pouring into me. Now as a parent, I pray that my kids have a Mrs. Fisher.
Julie, thank you. Thank you for just years and years of input, of sacrificing yourself for so many young women, and years of friendship.
Julie, I love you. I am so honored to be a part of this night to celebrate you. I can't think of anyone more deserving than you to receive this award. We celebrate you. We honor you tonight.
Thank you for your sacrifice of time away from your family, because I know now, having my own children, the sacrifice when you step away from your own family to impart and to mentor others. And you did that, Julie. And I am so thankful, and I appreciate and I love you. And I know that this achievement award for you is so deserving, and I can't think of anybody else that should have it but you.
If I could say one thing to the girls I've coached before, well, first I'd say I miss you. That's not my one thing, though. My one thing would be, I hope that you're still loving God with all your heart, and you're going after him in a big way, and that he is number one in your life. Teaching your players, or whatever they are, teaching them to do the best they can and helping them with their skill development and to really move forward, and winning whenever we're competing, because we didn't always compete, but that's definitely important. And it's real close, number 2, and almost overlaps. But if having a godly influence, or if you're not in a Christian arena, a goodly influence on them, if that's not your first goal, then you're going to miss the second goal. So that's one of the things that was always very important.